Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me once again on BIA Center for Excellence in Business Communication. Today, we have an amazing guest with us. We have been meeting several trainers and teachers for the Train the Trainer podcasts. And today, we have with us a person who is the winner of the International Teachers Olympiad, which is conducted by CENTA in 2024 for English category. And she scored a perfect 10 on 10 on that. And she is a Cambridge CELTA certified trainer. She is also someone who offers specialized, personalized one-to-one coaching for individuals. She teaches business English, exam preparation, and public speaking. She designs engaging and simple lessons that are easy to understand and enjoy. Her goal is to help learners speak and write English clearly, confidently, aiming to open doors for their personal and professional success. And this is just about English language teaching, but she does a lot more. She is into content writing. She has developed written content and also edited that for academic books, for not just for English, for value education, for computer science, and also for environmental science. She is not just a teacher of English and all these subjects. She is a techie too. She is an MSc Information Systems graduate from the prestigious BITS Pilani. It's a dream and a dream for many people to get educated from that amazing institution. And she is not just a techie and a content writer and also a teacher. She is also a designer. She started her career with that aspect, and she is a master of so many amazing arts. I came to know a lot about her yesterday when we were interacting. I was trying to design a simple poster for our podcast, and her attention to detail, her quickness in terms of what can be better, thinking about a better choice of words and what would make the design better. So many things impressed me. Her diligence at work is fantastic. For this small tasks, she took so much efforts to make sure everything fell in place. I'm sure she does the same and maybe definitely more for her students. With that said, it's a pleasure and an honor for me to meet this amazing person today. Thank you so much for joining us and for agreeing to do this interview. Welcome to our show, Sharadha Ramanathan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. That was a very long and kind introduction from your side. That also shows how diligent you are in welcoming your guests and also researching about them. Uh, it's really an honor to come and have this conversation with you. I'm sure it's going to be a big learning experience for me too.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We all are looking forward to learning from you. I primarily started this Train the Trainer podcast because I had some questions about teaching. And instead of me approaching some teacher just once, I thought I would do it as an interview so that at least a few more teachers could possibly get benefited from it. So that was the whole purpose of starting this. And you specialize in one-to-one teaching. It is highly demanding. So we have to put in a lot of efforts to make sure it really works and we get the desired outcomes. What do you like about conducting one-to-one sessions?
I think the most fulfilling part of conducting personalized one-on-one sessions is the flexibility to chart out a customized learning journey for individual learners. So learners who approach for language training, they come from different backgrounds and different cultures. They have varied learning needs. They are from different age groups, so it is actually an experience to meet individual learners and kind of see how to work with them from where they are at the starting point, irrespective of their grade or proficiency, and then see them flourish under your guidance. So that is very fulfilling for me.
Yes, I think we are grateful to be in a profession where we could feel fulfillment every now and then, even every small step, every small improvement that we notice. It's a celebration for us. With that said, I would like to know what has been the biggest challenge for you when it comes to conducting one-to-one classes.
Well, there are several challenges based on the different backgrounds of learners. So, if I have to talk about students, some of the students who join language training, if they come by their own motivation, it's easy to start and easy to proceed. But in some cases, students may have different interests. Maybe they are more interested in arts or science or technical stuff, and they are not as interested in language as maybe their parents would like them to be. So when such students join to uh, engage them in these sessions is initially a challenge, but I think with the right techniques you can get around to working with them. As far as adults are concerned, they have other responsibilities. They're not tuned to assignments and the classroom kind of conditioning that the students have, and always there is some other thing that takes priority, though they want to improve language. So time is a constraint, responsibility is a constraint, and most of the work has to get done during these sessions. And in that particular time during the session, to get them to see the improvement is definitely a challenge. So your sessions have to be like uh, well planned to cater to their needs. They're very specific as far as adults are concerned.
So when it comes to adults, these are the challenges that we have. Somehow I have been teaching adults for almost a decade now, so I think I somehow got used to the challenges. But whenever I try to teach kids, I always find it difficult. They get bored soon. I don't know what would keep them engaged for the course duration. What they like, what they don't like, and what they like one day, they don't like another day. So how do you handle one-to-one classes for kids?
I think I can relate to them because I'm myself like that. When there is no variety in things that I do, and I have to repeat the same thing again and again, or even conduct the same lesson again and again, the monotony really takes over. So, honestly, I enjoy working with children, especially, say, between grade 3 to grade 8. They're very impressionable at their age, and they absorb like sponge. So you have to be very prepared about what you talk to them, the discussions that you have. In fact, in some ways, you can even rewire the thought process if you have very good active discussion. So in that way, I find it very fulfilling to deal with children. And like I said, they have this classroom conditioning. So if the lesson interests them, they pay attention. Or I believe you can set expectations with students right at the beginning of the session or the beginning of the training, and that works a lot for me. And I do take effort to kind of understand their interests and design lessons based on their interests. For example, if say a sports person joins the training, or let's say someone is interested in art or space or drawing comics joins the training, at least initially I tune the activities to their topic and their interests. So even if you have to talk about writing or comprehension passages or speaking, if you start with their interests, they think they're heard, so they're very receptive, is my experience.
Uh, Thank you so much for sharing these details. Some takeaways for me are definitely setting expectations and doing enough research because they quickly grasp things, so they
Yeah,
may and if we happen to make a mistake, they may carry that with them for a long time.
yeah, yeah.
And yes, you did also mention that they understanding their interests is more important when we teach kids. So three important takeaways for this one question. Thank you so much for sharing those valuable insights. And when it comes to doing all these things for a kids class, you may be teaching them for an hour,
Hmm.
but how long do you usually take to prepare for these classes?
Actually, this I don't follow this, prepare and conduct a class using slides and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of decide what topic I'm going to take. Let's say I'm going to take grammar today, and I decide which topic, let's say pronouns. I decide the framework on what are the things that they have to learn by the end of the class. So if I decide that these are the stuff that they have to learn, I go by the session because I ask them to give examples, and I ask them to kind of deduce why they are doing what they're doing, and possibly deduce the rules from their own examples. So if you see my sessions, I don't design slides. I actually create sessions on the fly with session notes and documents. And I think because they are involved so much, every session is also different for me. And that keeps me interested. Otherwise, it shows if there is a monotony that is set in. So for me, it's creating those sessions on the fly. And also making them give examples saves a lot of my preparation time in that sense. But what we have to be very conscious of is to not compromise on what are the aspects that the child has to learn at the end of the session.
So now, when this is the uncompromisable part, how do you set the expectations with a child?
In most cases, I have the expectations in my head. I don't tell
Mhm.
them that this is what
Ah,
has to be done. Nobody likes preaching and nobody likes instructions. But as we go along, suppose there's a resistance to learning, or the attention is not there to the detail, I tell them why we are learning what we are learning, and why am I insisting that this is important, and give them examples of where all they might use a particular concept. In that sense, when they understand that they are going to apply, if not immediately, even later, but when you justify and tell the importance that this is important even at a later time, I do see them paying attention. But like you said, if we overwhelm the child saying we are going to learn so much, sometimes it doesn't work. But sometimes if you give a lot of free hand also, it might not come to a very proper organizing in terms. So I personally design based on the child's personality, if you ask me.
mm.
For some children, giving an outline helps so they know, okay, this is what it is. For some children, if you say, three items that we're going to do today, that overwhelms them. So I just go by their personality.
So when a new student joins you, how long do you take to assess their personality usually?
I first have a talk with the parent, or if it's an adult learner, I do have a conversation with them even before organizing a demo. During the demo, like if it's an adult learner, we already decide what we're going to discuss, what activities they're going to conduct. And as far as the child is concerned, I do not go into formal activities. Like, for example, I don't ask them to do spelling or writing or solve grammar, core grammar exercises. I have my own ways of assessing by conducting games. For example, like I conduct word marathon, association games, vocabulary games, creating a story. I don't see any child not wanting to do that. There are several simple activities that help me to understand. And at the end of it, I ask them a few questions like, what do you want me to help as your teacher? I don't say what you're going to learn. I asked them, how can I help you as a teacher? And that has helped a lot because children are very open about their weaknesses, unlike, adults who are a little reticent at the beginning about telling about their weaknesses. But children are very open. They're like, I find spellings very difficult. I don't like grammar. They're like very open. So that sets the tone of where we have to start. We cannot compromise any of the language skills, especially in their when they are in their school, or even if they are doing their college or university. But some of the questions, certain standard questions that I have, it definitely gives me an insight. And I also have a set of activities which I kind of dabble to find out.
Wonderful. You have mentioned about a couple of games and different activities that you conduct. Do you use any online tools or AI tools for these?
Usually it's like I said, I generate on the fly. So the games,
Mm.
I involve them and I actively do it because then they don't take their eyes off screen. They're like, focused. I don't use those tools mostly during demo, though in certain cases when the students are a little stressed or whatever, I've used. Maybe 90% of the cases I've not used any of those online tools. And I still have made the demo work for me as a diagnostic assessment. But
Mhm.
I do use tools. I do feed in my ideas in ChatGPT to see whether I can conduct it in a better way. I ask
Mhm.
suggestions through prompts. And certain things I've taken, certain things I would like to go by my instincts that have worked for me before.
And in the field of teaching and training, there is a lot of talk about at what stage teachers will become obsolete and when would AI take over completely or computers would take over completely and so on. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, I don't want to live in an utopian world that, English teaching and learning is going to be the same even a decade later. We never thought that we are going to teach over Zoom. I mean, online learning, even 5 years ago when COVID,
Absolutely.
the lockdown was started. I dreaded, coming online and starting to teach students. And I was like, how do I monitor their spelling, their writing, their handwriting, etc. All of us started with like, say, zero, especially teachers of all kinds in institutes, tuition teachers, personalized trainers, everybody.
Yes.
There were very few online classes at that time, to my knowledge, for language training. But COVID changed everything, and within a year, all of us have adapted to new methods. I believe we will be adapting to AI too. Well, I'm not a, I mean, you introduced me as a techie. Yes, I've completed information systems. It gives me an edge that I understand or learn software easily, but as far as language training or language sessions are concerned, let's say productive skills,
Mm.
speaking and writing requires helping the learners to find a unique voice. For example, if to take an example, I give an exercise to five different students to write a summary of a book. If you see their output at the end of my training, it'll be totally different approach to writing summary. Because what I'm very conscious is they don't become my clones. You know what I mean? I take my expertise to the class, but I don't take my personal style to the class. It is my responsibility to bring their unique and personal voice outside that they are comfortable with, that they could take it forward and make it effective. I'm not sure how much of this personalized care will be taken by AI. By
Mm.
care, I'm talking about, let's say, empathy.
Mm.
Let's say celebrating the wins. Look at if, for example, children play video game and they say superb. 5 times after that superb flashes in different signs, it becomes monotonous. But if 5 times a teacher says superb, the same word, the impact is very different. So it is about that personal touch, I believe, that AI can't replace. Also, I would like to talk about the responsibility of the content that we discuss during
Mm.
classes or the language that we use. I mean, we can talk about vocabulary, we can talk about being open to discussing certain topics. Of course, it has to be age appropriate, but a teacher will ensure that the content doesn't go outside the context and outside what is suitable for a particular age group, if you know what I mean. So that kind of responsibility, can we give it 100% to AI? I am not sure. And
Great.
like I said, when it comes to productive skills, finding that a unique voice is like more of a hand-holding journey. And once you give them the skill, people will find their way through AI or without AI, right? It's their journey. But as a teacher, I cannot think of AI as a replacement, but definitely as a tool for working on my own creativity and my own approach, possibly trying to understand the current needs and demands of the learner. The topics that we did as comprehension passages, let's say, during our school and what I teach students today are very different. If I'm going to take the topics that I did even 10 years ago, students are not interested. So these things, instead of going to Google and researching, if I use ChatGPT, I get a whole lot of ideas which would help me to improve my sessions and make it engaging, make it simpler, make it grade appropriate, or proficiency appropriate, like beginner level language or intermediate or advanced. All this can be done through ChatGPT, but reaching that language out to the learners the way they have to learn, I think is the teacher's responsibility.
Uh, that's a lot of information, useful information. Thank you for sharing that. I would also, when you mentioned it is their journey from there, so at
Hmm.
that point, I was thinking about one particular aspect that is important, but it is kind of difficult to bring it in the classroom. Intonation, and tone of voice. The what comes naturally to them is what they do. So
Hmm.
no matter what we talk about, how much we highlight how a question should be or how a statement should be, how your tone of voice reflects whether you mean what you say or not, and so on. How do you handle this particular aspect? Are we kind of trying to change them here, or should we do it? Should we not do it? Where should we draw the line?
Well, I believe every voice has a different texture and let's say uniqueness or specialty. There are people who talk with a flat tone, but they can engage you for hours. There are people who have very animated expressions, but you don't know what they're saying. Like after a few minutes, you're impressed with all their gestures and all their active presence. But I'm not sure whether they can be like all of them can be impactful, or whether we can categorize people with, let's say, a flat tone or not so expressive voices, people who cannot hold an audience together. I have a slightly different opinion on this. I believe, um, when I say communication as a key part, if I'm able to convey what I want to convey, and you're able to understand exactly what I want to convey, okay, that connect is itself a big thing. That is itself a big, let's say, a big thing that we are achieving in language training sessions. Now we can try and work on, like you say, the intonations and pauses. But like I say, everybody has a unique style of speaking. Some of them speak very fast, you can understand. Some of them speak slowly, but they are not able to even convey a thought completely. So I would rather focus on the nuances of communication and retain their uniqueness in their expression or voice, so long it does not impede communication. If I'm not able to understand, yes, I will try. Otherwise, no. Imagine, like, for example, how an actor like Irfan Khan speaks and an actor like, say, Rajpal Yadav speaks. I mean, I'm talking about, say, in a North Indian context, Hindi actors context, or I'm sure in international context, there are people who have different ways of speaking. Not everybody has the same intonations or pauses or the expressions or gestures, and that is what brings variety, isn't it, to
True, true.
or people with whom we interact. So I believe even that uniqueness has to be retained if that's what is comfortable to the learner.
Wonderful. Thank you for. I feel like a big burden has reduced for me. So I usually feel terrible about, pushing people to be a little bit different with their effectiveness in terms of their tone of voice. But then I do get their personality type, and I don't feel great about asking them to change it much. Well, and one more thing that I really wanted to discuss with you is you are into exam preparation as well. When it comes to reading, we call reading a dying habit. But as far as I know, when people pick up the phone before they get into Instagram, they first read a message, or they read a Google News, or they read some. Nowadays, news channels have WhatsApp channels. They read any of these things either in their mother tongue or English, before they get onto these platforms where, of course, once they get into Instagram, they are not back for a very long time. But at least when they pick up the phone, they are usually, in most cases, I believe they start with reading something, at least a message. So I think the reading on paper is almost a dying habit. So what do you notice, and what do you think people should read, and how do you think reading can help people with exam preparations?
Reading as a dying habit is what you mentioned. So I would like to first tell my take on it.
Hmm.
Reading can never die, because you are in a place where reading and writing is important for an exam. So reading as a habit cannot die. What you read, how much you read, and what is the type or kind of content you read matters. So when you talk about people reading messages, what kind of messages are we talking? Are we talking about personal messages that come to them, or a tabloid gossip, or something that's not relevant, but at least they take an effort to understand about the topic, something new that they want to learn? That makes a lot of difference. So when you say reading as a habit, I presume you're talking about serious reading that could possibly improve your vocabulary or your
Yes.
knowledge of a language. um, Honestly, I'm not a person who's a long format reader right from my childhood. I like short stories compared to
Hmm.
novels, but I can read and understand a variety of text, and I read only what is relevant or required for me. That way I'm a lazy reader. So
Hmm.
if I have to talk or teach a topic, something that is not familiar to me, I'll do all the research, go all out to read. Like you said, we cannot tell something that is not relevant to the student, or we cannot tell anything wrong, especially if you're teaching young minds. So first of all, I decide whether I would want to handle the topic. And if I decide to handle the topic, sometimes literary analysis is something I dread. I used to avoid, but now I myself want to break that shell and say it is one type of text which you have to be prepared. Because like you said, if I'm going to do exam training, or if I'm going to give academic help, I should be equipped. Whether I choose is different, but I should be equipped to handle it. And I've now got that also comfortable under my belt. To answer your question about reading in terms of improving vocabulary and exam preparation, um, language skills improvement and exam preparation are slightly different. Language skills improvement is you don't have focus on score, or for example, uh, doing a particular exam well. But with good language skills, you can prepare for any exam. It becomes easier. Now, exam preparation goes through a format, right? So comprehension passages, what kind of passages? One poem, one factual passage, maybe one argumentative essay to be written, etc., etc. There, you only focus on that format, and you're very clear about strategies to get the score well. So, for example, if I have to train for Olympiad, some you may know the answer, I mean, correct answer. Sometimes you are stuck. So you teach strategies of eliminating the wrong answers.
Hmm.
But that is not something you can use in productive skills when you're
True.
writing your own essay or something. So language skills training and exam preparation, I feel the strategies are itself different, and you need to be clear what you're enrolling for. If
Hmm.
you're going to be enrolling for exam preparation, some language training topics could be a prerequisite. Maybe some grammar topics or things like skimming, scanning, etc. That could be a prerequisite. But if you're focusing totally on language training, I still do language training. I ask students to attempt Olympiad exams just to see where they are.
Hmm.
And it helps you to understand their learning gaps, or what kind of topics that they have to work on. Like, are they able to spot errors? You can find out. Are they able to understand vocabulary? Can they fix context clues? Can they fix the context and learn, decipher the meaning of unknown words? All this can be deciphered, but that and language training, I keep it separate.
Hmm.
Because when I do language training, like I say, I bring out their unique voice. I find out their language issues that need to be addressed for their daily life context, much more than focusing on the score or the format of a particular exam.
Okay. So now, when you were talking about these aspects, I noticed that you mentioned you were not very comfortable with the analytical reading or writing, and then now you have also got that under your belt. So, can you tell me how do you learn? How do you continue this learning process and expand the areas where you can uh, work on?
I would like to clarify. I actually was resisting literary analysis. That
Oh,
is
sorry.
classics,
Okay, okay.
literary classics like Shakespearean works or poem analysis or
Uh-huh.
whatever. So it actually it was a learning experience from my own teaching journey, I have to say.
Hmm.
So I tell sometimes, when students resist certain kinds of exercises. So when I teach tenses or when I tell them rules about using a particular topic, they kind of resist because they know the usage, but they don't know the nuances of possibly converting it to applying it as a grammar rule, or for example solving an grammar exam, grammar
Mm-hmm.
paper. That's a different this thing. So I tell sometimes you may have to put your effort on things that you don't like, and it is equally important. Okay, because there's no choice there. You need to be to get through this particular exam or particular topic. You are supposed to be aware. If you don't want to go too deep into that, it's fine, but at least you need to know the basics or the concepts to get through whatever is required for a particular grade or an exam. This is when I do academic help, for example. The same thing applies to me, isn't it? When I take up students for academic help, I used to say I'm not comfortable with literary analysis. 2 years down the line, I actually self introspect and say, how can I say that when I'm asking students to do things that they are not comfortable with? So if I decide to take academic help, then I have to equip myself with whatever is required. So today I can do figurative language easily. I do poem analysis. I don't read the complete literary works. That's not practically possible, but I found my own strategies of possibly deciphering a quote. There are other websites which give you summary of very common quotes of different classics that you can. I have a bank from which I teach, though I may not be able to cater to each and every classic that is dealt with in every academic institution. I have a bank and I'm comfortable with that analysis, and I guide the students. They also don't need to read the entire classics to do it. So I teach them nuances there also. Like, even if you don't read the entire book, how do you what are the resources that you can use to understand the context and go forward and do it. Every time you may not have the time to read the entire book and
True, true.
do it. Yeah.
And are there any specific websites that you use often for expanding your learning?
um so there are like for grammar, we I have all things grammar for exercises.
Mm-hmm.
I do go to Pinterest for
Oh,
some of the grammar exercises. Then there are 15 worksheets. There's a site, I don't remember the exact
okay.
name of the website, but 15 worksheets for every topic. I choose 3 or 4. When I prepare worksheets for students, I take from different sources so that they are not used to one format of question solving. So all things grammar will have, let's say, 4 5 formats in which they design questions. But if you take British Council website, where there are free
Mm.
resources, they have other ways of asking questions. I believe it's optimal if you take it from 3 4 sources and choose the best of the topics, and keep in mind what are the most common mistakes that students will make, and ensure that those kind of questions are the part of your training. So I have a solid, set of worksheets that I ask students to do, and
Mm.
after that, everyone have their own grammar or reading comprehension or literature book from their academic institution prescribed. But I ask them to do the sheets that I give, and then ask them to attempt their academic portions on their own to see whether they are able to do it on their own, or help them out if there are issues there. And that has worked out very well for me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all these details. I'm sure it will help us a lot. Um, Now, when it comes to one of the particular category of adult learners, The moment I hear this word, I take a few steps back. Is CXOs. So if I ever have to teach CXOs, I am like, okay, can I add value to this person? What do they need from me? I know nothing. This person is running a successful business for 20, 30 years. How am I going to do anything that would be of a value add to this person? So all these things run in my mind. You do teach CXOs, you have taught them earlier. So did you have these kinds of hesitations? How did you overcome them, or what was your thoughts back then, and how do you go about teaching such people?
When I got the initial opportunity to, teach a CXO, I got to know him, socially through some kind of a discussion forum where he saw me speak.
Hmm,
And then he just wanted to have an interaction. And he said, I want to become your student. I just wanted to disappear given a choice because the same things ran in my mind. I mean, um, about their success. They are stalwarts in their field. That's why they are CXOs, isn't it?
yes.
And what he told me really stayed with me. He said, you say I'm a stalwart, that's fine. I consider you a stalwart in your field. That sounds very flattering, but reassuring also
True.
to have a starting point. You don't take that too seriously that you're a stalwart in your field and all. But it told me that at least the first experience that I had was very fulfilling because the person who actually got trained from me, the
Hmm,
business communication, he learned presentation, moderating meetings, emails, follow-ups, minutes of the meeting, that is editing the minutes of the meeting in case certain things are
hmm,
tweaked. He's not going to write the minutes, but he should be able to spot the nuances if something was changed. So that was very extensive, and he was a fantastic student. So, teaching someone like that humbles you because you remain a
true.
student forever. So I think the start was very good and it set the ball rolling for me. And the insight that I got after this training are uh, a person who is a CXO coming to you are very specific about what they want to learn. So you either ask them questions to, get what they want specifically, or you talk to them, learn a requirement, schedule another session to say these are all what I think you need to start off. Do you have any inputs, or do you want me, let's start off and figure out along the way. More often than not, they would usually tell you their difficulties or language issues.
Hmm,
So I don't think you need to really be bothered about their technical issues, whether they are from finance, investment banking, sales, marketing, that they know. They are not looking for that kind of an expertise from you. But when they talk about difficulties, I kind of categorize or try to um, decipher a language issue that I have to work on and make very micro learning
hmm, hmm,
outcomes, micro learning, not even learning outcomes, micro learning outcomes. And then I just say that these are issues that we work on and we figure out along the way. Mostly, see, when they come to a language trainer, they come only when they think you're experienced and you would help them, right? For some
true.
reason, either during the demo or looking at your profile, they somehow think that you will help them. So they will not go into the nitty gritties. They don't have the time either. And you, like I said, why you don't overwhelm the student with what all you're going to learn. You don't overwhelm them also because they don't have the time and they don't need to take that burden. It's your responsibility, if you ask me. So mostly they don't get into nitty gritties and they figure out along the way. But they are very specific and they want to see instant results. So
Hmm,
at the beginning of all the session, every session, I say, this is our attempt. This is what we're going to try and learn. At the end of the session, let's see whether we are able to achieve it. So your activities have to be very, very fine tuned to achieve that outcome in that half an hour to 45 minutes, not even 1 hour. Because the last 15 minutes, they would like to tell how comfortable they are, what is it, did it help them, etc. Those feedback. Another thing which was a learning experience for me was you, while you say you can tell students you have to practice outside class hours, you can't tell CXOs to do that.
yeah,
Even if you do, you can't expect them to do that.
true.
So you have to accept that the 45 minutes to 1 hour they are, I mean, half an hour to 45 minutes that they are present with you is your golden time to bring a change. And if they even see a small change, they are willing to engage for some time. But you know, that responsibility of bringing in that change and responsibility of identifying the language issues mostly lies with the trainer. They won't be able to articulate it. And as trainers, I don't think we should get intimidated about their background, where they are from, what they're doing, how successful they are. I don't think it matters. I don't think it should matter.
Thank you very much for that input. And yes, just like doctors, right? You
Yeah,
don't you are going to be there for them for that particular issue rather than for everything else that they
exactly.
stand for. With respect to adult learners, this is my last. I do have one more question, but then
That's
with
fine.
respect to adult learners, uh, one common question that they tend to ask us before they enroll is, how long will I take to get better? And we also have a tough time understanding how many hours of class should I recommend for this person. So I generally recommend maybe 10 or 20 hours and say we will work on this. And if needed, we may have to extend. And if sometimes you might be more efficient, you may achieve your learning goals earlier. Also, that has also happened with some students who are very clear about what they exactly wanted. They just pick that and then they are out of the classes. How do you generally handle this question? Do you get this question?
From every person, right? We also would ask the same thing. How long do I have to, like, if you want to go to the gym, we say, how long will I take to lose
Yeah.
weight, right? It's the
Yes.
same
Yes.
thing. So it is very normal that they ask because at the end of the day, they are, investing on a particular aspect. In this case,
Correct.
it's language. There is weight loss, or if they go to a nutritionist or a dietitian, they'll say, when will I, when will I achieve this, ideal weight, or body structure based on diet and all. So it is all outcome based. So we need to be prepared for it. And like you said, there is no straight answer. But what I do tell is that I tell them that these are the first four modules that we'll work on. Typically, it will be introduction, and then three functional areas like emails or presentation skills or meetings, or functional areas of being polite, negotiation, conflict. I tell for these four areas, maybe this many sessions it'll take. If we are able to complete earlier, I have other plans, but let's not talk about this now, because if I mean, the way we move forward, we will be able to figure out. But if you give them a plan and typically say for 10 sessions, I think they are pretty convinced, because at least you have a plan for those 10
True.
sessions. And by third or fourth sessions, I start asking them, how's the training going? What is it that you would like to learn next, pretty much. But by eight or nine sessions, they themselves start telling where is the difficulty, or they say, you go by what you want, and I'm very comfortable with the topics that you choose. Either ways, it has happened.
Wonderful, wonderful. Uh, and out of curiosity, one question: how from MS information systems to language teaching and extensively, I think you have worked on many subjects, but teaching when it comes to teaching language. So how did this what is that transformation or the switch happen?
Well, I was a child writer. I published stories and articles, letters to the editor, and poems when I was I think right from my sixth standard, which is maybe 11 to 12 years of age. I think there's also I don't know whether to call it a destiny that played. I was more than average student, but I was never a topper and all that in class. So in that way, I wasn't an attention seeker also, because I was doing my own thing during my school days. Um, I wasn't very active in extracurricular activities, but I was here publishing things, by the side, and I was very happy with it. I never had a flair for any other subject other than English, incidentally, during my school days. But like I tell all the students, you have to go through those subjects. Incidentally, I scored very well in my 10th standard and 12th standard. the final exams. I don't know. That's why I said maybe there is an element of destiny in it. I am a sincere student. I can definitely say that, but I wouldn't say I have this natural acumen for science and math. But maybe I had an inclination towards creative work. So I used to do a lot of artworks also, artworks, crafts, and all. In my 12th standard, I got good marks because maybe I was in state board. I shifted from CBSE to state board, and believe me or not, I actually got the application form for English literature to study in my native place, which is Trichy.
Okay.
I got admission also, but I didn't write any entrance. No entrance exam. At that time, every college used to have entrance, and I was so clear. But BITS Pilani was maybe the only college, if I may say, that took your marks into account, made a percentile out of it, and we got admission. And suddenly, I scored really well, which was I knew I did the exams well, but you can never gauge how well until the marks come. Just like Olympiad last year, I knew I had done Olympiad well, and they had asked to design a lesson plan and all that. I was very confident. I was happy with the output that I did, but obviously you cannot say you're going to be the winner, isn't it? It's like that in my 12th standard also. And then yes, maybe life took me to Pilani. Um, and I just wanted to, I'm just seeing how to cut the long story short. There,
Yeah.
I just couldn't adjust to the demands of the course. Let
Okay.
me be very honest
You
about it.
started with your UG in BITS Pilani.
There is only one degree I did, but that is MSc Tech. It's called an
Okay. Okay.
integrated course, and
Uh-huh.
we get MSc Tech in
Oh,
4 years. My
okay.
father was like, if you do information technologies, it's the future, and
Mm.
then you can figure out this, that, like how any
True.
parent says. And let me tell you, they are true in their own
Uh,
way. They are not telling out of the box.
uh,
They have a thought process
true.
going on, and in his case also, he was right in his own way. I don't think if I had done, if I hadn't done um, a course like that and come to language, I would approach language the way I do today. For
Completely
me,
agree.
language
Yes.
teaching is not, let's say, finishing the syllabus. It's about identifying the learning problem of the learner, language issue or learning problem. And I believe if you sort that out, all other aspects, whether it is exam, whether it's communication, whether it is your confidence, whether it's your love for learning, everything gets sorted out. So I look at teaching as a teaching learning program. It's not about completing topics for a particular grade. That is why this personalized learning gives me an extremely a very good free hand, because I don't need to worry about what grade the student is in, what is his current. I never ask academic scores to any of my students. I've never asked, and I don't think that is relevant also, because that's not how I look at language training. So I see where the student starts from. I see where is it they want to achieve, and I see how much I can take it forward. And the most important thing is, I also feel we need to let go. You can't hold them for a long time, so you should
True.
also know when to let go.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for those inputs. And when you mentioned about you don't look at the scores, and in the corporate world, there is one particular challenge with the Six Sigma and all of that. They say,
Mhm.
like, what cannot be measured cannot be improved.
Mm.
So you tell us how the students are before the training and how the students are after the training. You use any kind of metrics, maybe CEFR or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So do you do anything like that for any of your adult learners?
Well, I don't have a direct way of measuring, but there are options how you would
Mm,
be able to see it. When I said that I don't ask scores,
mm,
I have a reason for it.
mm.
Because the students who are going to learn English from me, they're going to anyway, write English exams in their school.
Correct.
So the academic scores will start from there, and they'll have weekly tests. They'll have term tests. If the scores improve, if the spellings improve, not only it reflects not only in English, it reflects in other subjects also. If the sentence formation or the understanding of a question improves, like they find word problems very easy. word problems is also a comprehension passage, if you ask me. To understand the problem right, to understand what is asked, to pick out
Yes.
what is only required, and all that. So in a way, it's a comprehension passage for me. So everywhere it reflects, and you're anyway going to find the metrics there. Uh, what I think you want to, what you're talking about is a tangible outcome,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
The tangible outcome comes when they go to the academic, when their academic scores improve, when their writing improves. For example, spellings improve, punctuations improve, number of mistakes come down. The other option last year, which I did experiment for certain students, is to ask them to write Olympiad.
Mm.
But like I said, when it comes to exam training, it's not just language skills. You have to teach the other techniques of writing an exam, which I feel is equally important, because ultimately, when they're going to go for higher studies, they're going to face all these kinds of competitive exams. And I felt Olympiad could be a good base. But what I have seen, or the kind of students who come to me, they don't have a proper foundation of grammar that the way we did in school. Now, the $1 million question is grammar important, right? I don't think, if, for example, I have to speak Kannada today, I call it survival Kannada. I
Yes.
can just
Mm.
try and make the person understand what I have to convey, and just manage with it. But can students do that in English? No, or any subject for that matter.
Right.
When they do in
Yes.
school, they cannot. And can you write the language exactly as you speak? No, that is
Mm.
also not. So you need to have an idea of the sentence structure and the possibilities of what all you can do with words. I'm not saying increase your vocabulary, but within the words that you know, understand how all you can use it to bring variety and show your expertise, because that's what matters. And another area that I do work on with almost all students who start writing is the informative passages, expository passages, all that are anyway taken care at school. But self expression is something that I feel is not given enough importance. I'm not talking about schools per se. The skills are not as developed as I would like it to be when they come to me. I'm talking about my students, not about a
Got
particular
you. Mm.
board or school. So I believe when you touch the self expression and they start doing it, so in self expression, what happens? You're talking about yourself. There's nothing you need to know or research. So you start improving vocabulary at that level. You start learning sentence structures at that level. Slowly, when you go outside and start talking about other things, your writing automatically improves, because you learn the techniques of writing in self expression and implement that with a little amount of tweaking in other kinds of passages. So I would say grammar is important for you to understand the syntax of writing. To that extent, you need it, and I insist on that. So when we are actually talking about, um, even when you say tangible outcome,
Mm.
I would like to give a few more examples,
Sure.
which are interesting. I would say breakthroughs.
Lovely.
Um, um, there was one student who came to me who just hated writing, but ended up writing two-part short novel. What do you say about that?
Wow. Wow. This is wonderful.
Yeah. And there is one student who joined with, again, writing issues, who published in Hindu during COVID,
Lovely.
journal
Amazing.
articles.
Okay.
Yeah. Here I actually help them to, write their own content. I tweak them. The ideas aren't mine, but I sit with them and make them, make changes online, and um, 2 3 articles you help, and then you see that improvement, because by the time, if the child is interested and involved, just like Lego, they get involved in writing also. That's
I
how I feel.
I love the
If they
example. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody thinks Legos. I can't do Lego, for
Hmm.
God's sake. I don't think I can. But possibly if somebody, if for example, I had to work on Lego with my nephew, but I think I'll sit for us. Right? So it is like with what kind of company, or what kind of like-minded person you're working with. So that's what I'm saying. That when you start off with something, it leads to many other things that you cannot dream of.
Hey, that's fantastic. Great stories, great inputs. Thank you for helping us to dream bigger and worry less about what we can't control and the background of our students. And it was an absolute pleasure listening to you, your attention to detail, your precise choice of words, and all the perfect examples that you shared. I'm sure all of them have been extremely helpful. They have been very helpful for me. I'm sure the viewers will also find it useful. I'm certain it would help a lot of teachers. Uh, and I have already been referring your name to anyone who approaches me when they have a child who wants to learn English or when they want to teach English to their child. I'm sure I will continue to do that more often after listening to you and understanding a lot about you through this interview. It was a great pleasure having you here and listening to so many things to all the extensive learning that you have had. Thanks a lot for sharing these things with us.
First of all, thank you for inviting me for this. I mean, I think you should be proud of yourself in the sense that you broke one more of my shell. I always used to feel that, if it's an organized conversation, I'm not very comfortable. I'm all over the place. Maybe even today I was. I'm not sure. Maybe once I listen, I would be able to understand more and improve more. But as I was, talking to you and going through this experience, it is exactly what I realize is what I tell my students too. You don't need to be perfect the first time, but there's
Definitely.
always a first time where you break that fear or anxiety of can you do it? And I give the entire credit to you to actually have broken this, barrier of I don't think I can have a structured, organized conversation or make an interview count. Since you said it's useful, this interaction or the conversation for
Indeed, it
was
was.
useful. I did enjoy talking, and there are certain things I started thinking about from your
Hmm.
questions, which would help my self reflection for my other students too. I have been, for example, thinking about tangible outcomes and creating in my own way without giving up on the principle that scores will not be
Hmm.
the base on which I will start working with students or engaging with them. If not scores, they'll find some other way. They'll find
Yeah,
something else that will matter for their life. English is a channel. It is not the end and means and end of everything. It's a
definitely.
channel to find your own way.
Definitely. Well, oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you once again. It was a pleasure having you here. Thank you for this amazing interaction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure interacting with you.